I always thought our life was a canvas of quiet beauty, painted with routine strokes of love. My name is Daniel, a 38-year-old architect, and my wife, Claire, a 35-year-old curator at the city's modern art gallery, was the muse of my existence. Our Victorian home in Portland, with its creaking floors and stained glass windows, felt like a sanctuary. We'd spend evenings sipping chamomile tea, her laughter filling the air as we debated the merits of abstract expressionism versus minimalism. Claire's eyes, a deep hazel, sparkled when she spoke of art, and I'd lose myself in her passion. Our marriage, 8 years strong, seemed unbreakable, a tapestry woven with trust. But there were threads I didn't see. Claire had been spending more time at the gallery, her phone buzzing late into the night. "Just work, darling," she'd say, her smile disarming. I believed her because doubt felt like betrayal. I was busy too, designing a community center, my sketches sprawling across our dining table. Yet, I noticed her perfume lingered less at home, replaced by a faint scent of cedarwood, unfamiliar and sharp. I dismissed it as my imagination, a quirk of an overworked mind. One evening, I returned early from a site visit. Claire wasn't home, though she'd said she'd be working late. Her car was gone, and the house felt hollow. I wandered to her study, where her desk was a chaos of exhibition notes and Polaroids. A photo slipped to the floor, a candid shot of her laughing with a man I didn't recognize. His hand rested on her shoulder, his grin too familiar. My stomach twisted, but I shoved the image back, telling myself it was nothing. Colleagues, I reasoned. Artists are tactile, aren't they? That night, Claire returned, her cheeks flushed. "Long day," she murmured, kissing my forehead. I nodded, but the Polaroid haunted me. I began to notice her absences, her vague explanations. The cedarwood scent clung to her jacket. I wanted to ask, but fear of shattering our harmony silenced me. Instead, I watched her, my love now tinged with a creeping unease. Our canvas was fraying, and I couldn't yet see the tear. The man in the Polaroid became a specter in my mind. I didn't know his name, but his face, angular, with a smug tilt to his lips, burned into my memory. I tried to focus on my work, drafting blueprints for the community center, but my thoughts drifted to Claire. Her late nights grew frequent, her excuses flimsier. "The gallery's hosting a new artist," she'd say, or, "I'm meeting a donor for drinks." I nodded, my throat tight, because questioning her felt like accusing her of something I wasn't ready to name. One Saturday, I visited the gallery unannounced, hoping to surprise her with coffee. The space was alive with color, bold canvases and sculptures that seemed to pulse. Claire was in the back, her laughter floating over the hum of visitors. I rounded a corner and froze. There he was, the man from the photo, leaning close to her. His name, I overheard, was Julian, a sculptor whose work was the gallery's latest obsession. He was tall, with tousled dark hair and a charisma that filled the room. Claire's hand grazed his arm as she gestured to a piece, their ease intimate, unguarded. I stepped back, coffee cups trembling in my hands. She hadn't seen me. I left without a word, the air outside sharp against my skin. At home, I paced, replaying their moment. Was it friendship? Professional admiration? My mind spun stories, each worse than the last. That night, Claire came home late, her lips stained with red wine. "Julian's exhibit is going to be huge," she said, her voice bright. I forced a smile, asking about the art, not the man. She talked animatedly, but her eyes didn't meet mine. I started noticing details I'd ignored. Her phone, once left carelessly on the counter, was now password protected. She'd hum unfamiliar songs, ones I'd never heard her play. The cedarwood scent was stronger, mingling with her jasmine perfume. I found a receipt in her coat pocket, for a cafe I didn't know, dated a day she'd claimed to be at the gallery. My architect's mind, trained to see patterns, began to construct a truth I didn't want to face. Yet I loved her. I clung to memories of our early days, camping in the Cascades, her head on my chest as we counted stars. I told myself I was paranoid, that Julian was just a colleague. But the Polaroid, now hidden in my desk, whispered otherwise. I needed proof, not suspicion. So, I began to watch, my heart a battleground of hope and dread, waiting for the moment the canvas of our marriage would tear wide open. Claire's world was pulling her away, and I was losing my grip. Julian's name slipped into her conversations too often, each mention a needle in my chest. Julian's so innovative, she'd say, or Julian suggested this new lighting. I'd nod, my jaw tight, as if his presence in her words wasn't carving a chasm between us. Our home, once a haven, felt like a stage where I played the fool. I needed to know who Julian was, not just to Claire, but in the world that seemed to orbit him. I searched online, my laptop's glow a harsh light in our darkened living room. Julian Voss, 40, was a rising star in the art scene, known for kinetic sculptures that moved with eerie grace. His Instagram was a gallery of his work and of him. Photos showed him at openings, his arm around Claire in one, her smile radiant. The caption read, "With my muse." My breath caught. Muse? The word felt like a theft, a claim on what was mine. I scrolled further, finding comments from Claire, playful, intimate. "You're impossible," she'd written under a photo of him smirking. My stomach churned. I confronted her that night, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "Who's Julian to you?" I asked, holding up my phone with the Instagram post. Her eyes widened, then softened. "He's a friend, Daniel. An artist. You know how intense these collaborations get." Her hand touched mine, warm, reassuring. "You're my home," she whispered. I wanted to believe her, but her touch felt rehearsed, her words a script. The next day I followed her. It was impulsive, a betrayal of my own values, but suspicion had poisoned my restraint. She left for the gallery, but her car turned toward a loft district, not her workplace. I parked a block away, watching her enter a converted warehouse. Julian greeted her at the door, his hand lingering on her back. They disappeared inside, and I sat, paralyzed, as minutes bled into an hour. When she emerged, her hair was slightly mussed, her laughter echoing. Julian kissed her cheek, and she didn't pull away. I drove home, my vision blurred by rage and grief. Claire returned later, humming, oblivious to my turmoil. "Good day," I asked, my voice ablade. She nodded, mentioning the gallery, not the loft. The lie was a wound, but I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more evidence, not just pain. That night, I lay beside her, her breathing soft, and felt like a stranger in my own bed. Julian's shadow danced between us, and I knew the canvas of our marriage was not just torn but unraveling. Claire's deception was a performance, and I was her unwitting audience. Each morning, she'd kiss me goodbye, her lips a fleeting promise, before vanishing into a world where Julian held sway. I'd watch her leave, her silhouette framed by our doorway, and wonder how love could feel so much like drowning. My work suffered. Blueprints lay unfinished, my clients' calls unanswered. My mind was consumed by her, by him, by the life they were building behind my back. I needed to understand the depth of her betrayal, so I dug deeper. I checked her email, a violation that left me nauseous but desperate. Her password, unchanged from our early days, was a small mercy. Amid gallery correspondence, I found messages from Julian. They were careful, coded in affection, talk of inspiration and shared visions. One email, sent a week ago, read, "Meet me at the loft again. I need you." Her reply, "Always." My heart sank, the word a dagger. Always was ours, a vow we'd whispered on our wedding night. I tracked their meetings, noting dates from emails against her excuses. The loft, a cafe, a hotel bar, each a stage for their dance. I hired a private investigator, a quiet man named Harris, who promised discretion. His reports were clinical, devastating. Photos showed Claire and Julian, their hands entwined, their laughter a silent mockery. One image captured them in an alley, her body pressed against his, their intimacy undeniable. I stared at the photo, my love for her warring with a growing fury. Claire sensed my distance. "You're quiet lately," she said one evening, her fingers tracing my arm. I shrugged, unable to meet her eyes. "Work?" I lied, mirroring her deceit. She accepted it, her relief palpable. Our conversations grew shallow, a masquerade of normalcy. I began to see her differently, her beauty, once my solace, now a mask. Yet I played my part, cooking dinners, sharing wine, while plotting my next move. Harris uncovered more. Julian was married, his wife a lawyer named Elise, unaware of his duplicity. The revelation sparked an idea, a seed of revenge taking root. I wasn't ready to confront Claire, not without a plan to dismantle the world she'd built with him. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices, to see her betrayal reflected back. I contacted Elise, posing as a concerned colleague, and sent her Harris's photos anonymously. Let Julian's life fracture, I thought. Let Claire's foundation shake. That night, I watched Claire sleep, her face serene. I wondered who she dreamed of, me, Julian, or the lie she lived. My love was a ghost, haunting the ruins of our marriage, but my resolve was alive, sharpening into something cruel, something she'd never see coming. My life became a dual blueprint, one for the community center, another for Claire's reckoning. I was no longer just Daniel, the architect who loved his wife. I was a man reshaping pain into purpose. Elise, Julian's wife, responded to my anonymous tip with a fury I could feel through her email. "Who are you? What do you know?" she demanded. I didn't reply, letting the photos speak. Harris reported that Elise had confronted Julian, their marriage now a battleground. Claire, unaware, continued her charade, her smiles at home a cruel facade. I deepened my investigation, hacking into Claire's gallery schedule. She'd blocked off afternoons for private consultations, times that aligned with her visits to Julian's loft. I planted a small recorder in her purse, a betrayal that matched hers. The recordings were a mosaic of her other life, her laughter with Julian, their whispers about escaping and new beginnings. One clip captured her voice, soft and certain. "Daniel's so predictable. He'll never suspect." My blood ran cold. Predictable. The word fueled my resolve. I began to weave my revenge, intricate as any design I'd drafted. I contacted a journalist, a friend from college named Mara, who specialized in art world exposés. I fed her a story, Julian's affair with a curator, compromising the gallery's integrity. I didn't name Claire yet, letting the rumor simmer. Mara's article, published online, hinted at scandal, and I watched Claire's face pale as she read it at breakfast. "This could ruin the gallery," she muttered, oblivious to my hand in it. I wasn't done. I hired an artist, a reclusive genius named Lila, to create a piece for the gallery's next exhibit. Lila's work was provocative, her installations forcing viewers to confront hidden truths. I commissioned a sculpture, a kinetic maze of mirrors reflecting fragmented images of a woman's face, Claire's face, paired with audio of her recorded words with Julian. Lila, intrigued by the concept, agreed to anonymity. The piece would debut at the gallery's gala, where Claire and Julian would be celebrated. I played my role at home, my affection a calculated mask. Claire, distracted by the article's fallout, leaned on me more, her vulnerability a twisted irony. "I'm so glad you're here," she said, her arms around me. I held her, my heart a furnace of rage and grief. Each touch was a reminder of her deceit, each word a brick in the wall I was building around her. As the gala approached, I finalized details with Lila, ensuring the sculpture's impact. Elise, now a wild card, was planning to attend, her presence a spark in my plan. Claire's world, so carefully curated, was about to collapse, and I would be there, the architect of her ruin, watching as the canvas of her lies burned. The gallery gala loomed like a storm on my horizon, the perfect stage for Claire's undoing. I spent days refining my plan, my architect's precision now a weapon. Lila, the artist, sent me photos of the sculpture. A labyrinth of mirrors, each reflecting fragments of Claire's face, her recorded words looping softly. "Daniel's so predictable. He'll never suspect." The piece, titled Fractured Muse, was a masterpiece of betrayal's reflection. Lila didn't know Claire was my wife, only that the work was meant to provoke. I wired her the final payment, my hands steady despite the chaos in my chest. Claire was unraveling. The journalist Mara's article had sparked whispers in the art community, and donors were pulling back. "It's just rumors," Claire told me, her voice brittle as she poured coffee. I nodded, feigning concern, while my mind replayed her recorded laughter with Julian. She was planning to use the gala to restore the gallery's reputation, unaware that I'd rigged the night to shatter her world. Julian, too, was distracted, his marriage to Elise crumbling under her accusations. I'd learned Elise was attending the gala, a volatile element I'd factored into my design. I offered to help with the event, a gesture Claire accepted with a grateful smile. I coordinated catering, ensured Lila's sculpture was installed discreetly, and confirmed Mara's press pass. Each step was a brick in the trap I was building. At home, Claire's affection felt like a performance, her touches hollow. "You're my rock," she said, her eyes avoiding mine. I wondered if she sensed the ground shifting beneath her. The night before the gala, I found a note in her coat pocket, a scrawled message from Julian. "Meet me after. We'll celebrate us." My vision blurred with rage, but I tucked the note away, fuel for my resolve. I didn't confront her. Instead, I polished my suit, practiced my smile, and prepared to play the devoted husband one last time. The gala would be a masquerade, and I was no longer the fool. As I lay beside Claire that night, her breathing soft, I envisioned the mirrors reflecting her face, her words echoing for all to hear. Elisa's presence would add chaos. Mara's article would amplify the fallout, and I'd watch Claire's curated life collapse. My love for her was a ghost, replaced by a cold determination to see her pay. The canvas of our marriage was in tatters, and I was ready to set it ablaze. The gala was a glittering facade, the gallery transformed into a cathedral of light and color. Guests in tuxedos and gowns sipped champagne, their laughter a fragile veneer over the tension I'd sown. Claire, radiant in a sapphire dress, moved through the crowd, her smile a mask of confidence. I stayed by her side, my arm around her waist, playing the proud husband. Julian was there, his sculptures the evening's centerpiece, his charm drawing admirers. Our eyes met once, his gaze flickering with unease. He knew Elise was coming, but not my role in it. Lila's fractured muse stood veiled in a corner, its reveal scheduled for the night's climax. I'd ensured the audio was wired to the gallery's sound system, Claire's voice ready to spill her secrets. Mara mingled, her notebook out, sniffing for the scandal I'd promised. Elise arrived late, her face a storm cloud, her lawyer's poise barely containing her fury. She scanned the room, locking onto Julian, then Claire. I watched, my pulse steady, as the pieces of my plan aligned. Claire's speech was flawless, praising Julian's work, the gallery's vision. I clapped, my smile tight, knowing her words would soon turn to ash. As she introduced the final piece, the veil fell from Fractured Muse. The crowd gasped at the mirrors, Claire's face refracted in 1,000 shards. Then her voice began, soft at first, "Daniel, so predictable." The room stilled, guests exchanging glances. Claire froze, her eyes wide, recognizing her own words. "He'll never suspect." The loop continued, her laughter with Julian a haunting refrain. Julian pushed through the crowd, his face pale, trying to reach the sculpture. Elise intercepted him, her voice low but venomous. "You liar!" Guests whispered, phones emerging to capture the chaos. Mara scribbled furiously, her eyes gleaming. Claire turned to me, her lips trembling. "Daniel, what is this?" she whispered. I met her gaze, my expression neutral. "Art," I said, revealing truth. She stumbled toward the sculpture, trying to unplug it, but the mirrors kept reflecting her, the audio relentless. Elisa's confrontation with Julian escalated, her accusations drawing a crowd. "You and her," she spat, pointing at Claire. The gallery, once Claire's sanctuary, was now her crucible. I stepped back, letting the scene unfold, my heart a furnace of vindication. The betrayal she'd woven was unraveling, thread by thread, before the world she'd fought to impress. As Claire's eyes met mine again, pleading, I felt no pity. She'd built this lie, and I'd merely exposed it. The gala, meant to be her triumph, was my masterpiece, a cruel, calculated ruin. And the night was far from over. The gala dissolved into chaos, a symphony of whispers and shattered glass. Claire stood by the sculpture, her face a mask of horror as fractured muse looped her betrayal. Guests murmured, some slipping out, others lingering like vultures. Julian, cornered by Elise, stammered excuses, his charisma crumbling. Mara darted through the crowd, her pen a blade carving the scandal into permanence. I watched from the sidelines, my suit pristine, my expression unreadable. Claire's world was burning and I'd lit the match. She approached me, her hands shaking. Daniel, please, stop this, she begged, her voice cracking. I don't know how this happened. Her lie was desperate, transparent. I leaned close, my voice low. You made choices, Claire. Choices have consequences. Her eyes searched mine, finding only steel. She turned away, tears streaking her makeup, and fled to her office. I didn't follow. Let her drown in her shame. Elisa's confrontation with Julian spilled into the main hall, her voice rising. You threw away our life for her, she shouted, gesturing at Claire's office door. Julian's face twisted, his charm replaced by panic. He tried to pull Elise aside, but she shook him off, her dignity a weapon. The crowd watched, enthralled, as Mara captured every word. I'd planned for Elisa's rage, but its raw intensity was a bonus, amplifying Claire's humiliation. The gallery's director, a stern woman named Vivian, approached me, her brow furrowed. Did you know about this? She asked, nodding at the sculpture. I shrugged, my tone neutral. Art reveals what's hidden. Isn't that the point? She frowned but didn't press. The damage was done, donors were withdrawing, the gallery's reputation in tatters. Claire's career, her pride, was collapsing under the weight of her own voice. I slipped outside, the night air sharp against my skin. My phone buzzed Mara, thanking me for the tip, promising a front-page story. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked to my car, where Harris, my investigator, waited. It's done, he said, handing me a folder. Inside were more photos, emails, proof of Claire and Julian's plans to leave together, to start anew in Paris. The betrayal cut deeper, but it hardened my resolve. This wasn't just about the gala. I wanted Claire to lose everything, to feel the void she'd carved in me. As I drove home, the city's lights blurred, my mind already sketching the next phase. Claire would return, pleading, promising change. I'd let her think she had a chance, only to tighten the noose. The canvas of our marriage was ash, but my revenge was a new design, intricate and merciless, and I was far from finished. Claire didn't come home until dawn, her dress crumpled, her eyes red. I was in the kitchen, coffee brewing, the house silent except for the hum of betrayal. She stood in the doorway, hesitant, as if the space no longer belonged to her. Daniel, she whispered, we need to talk. I gestured to a chair, my face a blank slate. She sat, her hands twisting, and began her script. Apologies, excuses, promises. It was a mistake, she said. Julian meant nothing. I love you. I listened, my silence a blade. Her words were rehearsed, each one a lie layered over the truth I'd uncovered. The recorder in her purse, still active, had captured her post-gala panic with Julian. What do we do? He knows. I'd heard it all. Her fear not of losing me, but of losing her carefully crafted life. I leaned forward, my voice calm. Tell me everything, Claire. No more games. She flinched, then spun a tale of friendship that went too far, blaming Julian's charisma, the art world's intensity. She didn't mention Paris, the loft, the note. I stood, pouring coffee, letting her squirm. You're lying, I said finally, setting a cup before her. Her eyes widened, but she didn't deny it. I didn't show my hand, no mention of the recorder, the emails, Elise. Instead, I let her think she could salvage this, that my love might bend. I need time, I said, my tone soft, calculated. She nodded, tears falling, and reached for my hand. I let her hold it, her touch a ghost of what it once was. That day, I worked from home, my blueprints a distraction from the folder Harris had given me. Claire stayed in her study, her phone silent, her world shrinking. Mara's article hit online, a brutal exposé of the gala, naming Claire and Julian, quoting Elise's accusations. The gallery's social media was a war zone of comments, donors distancing themselves. Claire's name, once a badge of prestige, was now a synonym for scandal. I watched her read the article, her face crumpling, and felt a cold satisfaction. I began the next phase of my revenge. I contacted a lawyer, drafting papers to protect my assets, preparing for the endgame. I also reached out to Lila, commissioning a second piece, an installation for a private event, one Claire would never expect. This one would be personal, a mirror held to her soul. I didn't tell Lila the full story, only that it was for someone who'd betrayed trust. She agreed, her artist's curiosity piqued. As night fell, Claire cooked dinner, a desperate attempt at normalcy. We ate in silence, the air heavy with her unspoken pleas. I played along, my revenge a silent blueprint, its lines sharpening with every lie she'd told. Claire's desperation grew, her attempts to rebuild our marriage a frantic dance. She'd leave notes on my desk, "I'm trying, Daniel," and cook elaborate meals, her hands trembling as she served. I played my part, offering small smiles, measured forgiveness, letting her believe reconciliation was possible. But my heart was a vault, locked against her. Each gesture she made was a reminder of her with Julian, their plans to flee, her voice calling me predictable. I was anything but. I deepened my revenge, my architect's mind crafting a structure of ruin. Lila's second installation was taking shape, a series of glass panels etched with Claire's words, lit from within to cast shadows of her betrayal. Titled Echoes of Absence, it would debut at a private event I'd host, inviting Claire's colleagues, friends, and the art world's elite. I'd frame it as a celebration of her career, a cruel irony she'd walk into blindly. Lila sent sketches, the panels hauntingly beautiful, and I approved them, my vision clear. I also leaked more to Mara, anonymously, about Claire's role in the gallery's financial mismanagement, funds diverted to Julian's exhibits, a detail Harris had uncovered. The story grew, the gallery now under investigation. Claire's phone buzzed with panicked calls from Vivian, but she hid them from me, her lies piling higher. I watched her unravel, her confidence eroding, her beauty dimmed by guilt and fear. Elise, meanwhile, was a force I'd underestimated. She'd filed for divorce, her lawyer digging into Julian's finances, uncovering payments to Claire for consulting. I sent Elise another anonymous tip, linking those payments to the gallery's troubles. Her response was swift, a public statement accusing Claire of ethics violations. The art world turned on Claire, her name poison. She came to me, sobbing, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. I held her, my embrace a trap, whispering, "We'll get through this." She didn't see the blade in my words. I planned the private event meticulously, renting a warehouse, transforming it into a gallery of Claire's downfall. Invitations went out, worded to flatter, ensuring a crowd. I told Claire it was a surprise to honor her, and her eyes lit with cautious hope. "You still believe in me?" she asked. I nodded, my lie as smooth as hers. Inside, I was counting the days until she'd face echoes of absence, until her world saw her as I did, a betrayer unmasked. That night, as Claire slept, I reviewed the event's details, my folder of evidence now a tome of her deceit. The canvas of our marriage was gone, replaced by my design. A cruel, glittering revenge that would leave her with nothing but the echoes of her own choices. And I was ready to unveil it. Claire clung to the illusion of redemption, her every action a plea for my forgiveness. She'd wake early, brewing coffee, her eyes searching mine for a flicker of the love we'd once shared. I gave her just enough soft words, a fleeting touch, to keep her tethered to hope. But my heart was a forge, hammering out the final pieces of her ruin. The private event, my grand unveiling of Echoes of Absence, was a week away, and I was sculpting it with an architect's precision. I sent invitations to the art world's elite, curators, critics, Claire's colleagues, framing the night as a tribute to her contributions. The wording was deliberate, celebrating Claire's vision. She'd see it as salvation, a chance to reclaim her tarnished name. I showed her the guest list, watching her face light with fragile optimism. "You did this for me?" she asked, her voice trembling. I nodded, my smile a mask. "You deserve it," I said, the truth a blade she couldn't see. Lila finalized the installation. Glass panels etched with Claire's recorded words, glowing with internal lights that cast shadows of her betrayal across the warehouse walls. The audio, a loop of her with Julian, would play subtly, inescapable. I added a twist. Projections of Harris's photos, Claire and Julian in the loft, the alley, the hotel bar, blurred just enough to haunt without naming her outright. Let the guests draw their own conclusions. I escalated the external pressure. Mara's latest article, fed by my leaks, detailed the gallery's financial collapse, implicating Claire's consulting fees from Julian. The investigation deepened, and Vivian fired Claire, her termination public and brutal. Claire came home, her face ashen, and collapsed into my arms. "I've lost everything," she sobbed. I stroked her hair, whispering, "Not me." The lie was effortless, my revenge a silent symphony building to its crescendo. Elisa's divorce proceedings were now a public spectacle, her lawyer exposing Julian's payments to Claire as evidence of misconduct. Julian, disgraced, had fled to a friend's studio, his career in ruins. I sent him an invitation to the event, anonymous, with a note, "See what you've wrought." I wanted him there, a witness to the collapse of their shared dream. Claire, unaware, began preparing for the event, choosing a dress, practicing a speech. Her hope was my canvas, and I was painting it with her downfall. As the event neared, I felt no remorse, only the cold clarity of purpose. Claire's betrayal had gutted me, and now I'd gut her world, leaving her to face the echoes of her own lies. The warehouse was transformed, a stark cathedral of glass and shadow. Lila's Echoes of Absence dominated the space, its panels gleaming, their etched words, Claire's confessions, catching the light. The projections flickered on the walls, ghostly images of her with Julian, their intimacy a silent accusation. The audio was wired to start on my signal, a whisper that would grow to a roar. I'd hired a curator to introduce the piece, framing it as a study in betrayal's cost, ensuring Claire's name wasn't spoken. Yet, guests arrived, their chatter filling the air. Critics in tailored suits, curators with sharp eyes, and Claire's former colleagues, some pitying, others gloating. Mara was there, her camera ready, sensing the story's climax. Elise arrived, her presence a live wire, her gaze scanning for Julian. He slipped in late, disheveled, his arrogance gone. I watched from a balcony, my suit a shield, my face unreadable. Claire entered last, her emerald dress a stark contrast to her pale face. She smiled, tentative, believing this was her redemption. I greeted her, my arm around her waist, guiding her through the crowd. "You look beautiful," I said, my voice warm. She leaned into me, whispering, "Thank you, Daniel." Her gratitude was a wound, but I pressed on, leading her to the installation. The curator began, her voice clear. "This work explores trust shattered, truths hidden." The lights dimmed, and the panels glowed. Claire's words, "Daniel's so predictable," carving shadows. The audio started, her laughter with Julian filling the space. Claire stiffened, her breath catching. Guests murmured, recognizing her voice, piecing together the projections. Claire's face drained of color, her hand clutching mine. "What is this?" she hissed. I met her eyes, my voice low. "Your truth, Claire." She pulled away, her gaze darting to the crowd, seeing their judgment. Julian stood frozen, Elisa's eyes boring into him. Mara snapped photos, her lens merciless. The curator continued, oblivious. The artist captures betrayal's ripple, its cost to all involved. Claire tried to leave, but the crowd pressed closer, drawn to the spectacle. Elise stepped forward, her voice cutting through. This is about you, isn't it? You and him. She pointed at Julian, then Claire. The room buzzed, phones recording, social media already alight. Claire's speech, her planned plea for forgiveness, was forgotten. She was exposed, her betrayal a public wound. I stepped back, letting the chaos consume her. My revenge was no longer a plan but a living thing, its teeth in her life. Claire's eyes found mine, pleading, but I turned away. The warehouse, her supposed triumph, was her crucible, and I'd built it to burn everything she'd touched. Claire stood alone in the warehouse, the installation's light casting her as a fractured silhouette. The audio looped, her voice with Julian a relentless echo. He'll never suspect. Guests whispered, their pity and scorn a tangible weight. Elisa's accusations grew louder, drawing Julian into the center of the storm. You ruined us both, she shouted, her lawyer's poise gone. Julian stammered, his excuses drowned by the crowd's murmur. Mara circled, her camera a vulture, capturing Claire's collapse. I watched from the balcony, my heart a stone. Claire's eyes darted, searching for an escape, but the warehouse was a maze of her own making. She approached me, her voice raw. Daniel, please stop this. I'll do anything. Her desperation was a mirror of my own pain, months ago, when I'd found the Polaroid. I leaned close, my words ice. You did this, Claire. You chose him. She flinched, tears streaming, and turned back to the crowd, her shame a public execution. The projections shifted, now showing blurred receipts, emails, the financial trail of her and Julian's deceit. The curator's voice rose. The piece asks us to confront hidden costs, the lies we tell ourselves. Guests connected the dots, whispering Claire's name, the gallery's scandal now tied to her. Vivian, her former director, stood near the exit, her face grim, shaking her head. Claire's career, her identity was ash. Elise confronted Claire directly, her voice a blade. You took everything from me. Was it worth it? Claire shook her head, mute, her hands trembling. Julian tried to intervene, but Elise shoved him back, her rage a force. The crowd parted, giving them space, a coliseum of judgment. Mara's flash lit the scene, each photo a nail in Claire's coffin. Social media was exploding, hashtags branding her a betrayer, a fraud. I signaled the curator to end the presentation, the audio fading, but the damage was done. Claire stumbled to a corner, her dress clinging to her, her sobs audible. Guests began to leave, their whispers trailing like smoke. Julian fled, Elise in pursuit, their drama a sideshow to Claire's ruin. Mara approached me, her eyes sharp. You planned this, didn't you? She asked. I shrugged, my voice neutral. Art reveals truth. She nodded, satisfied, and left to file her story. Claire remained, a broken figure in the warehouse's glow. I descended the balcony, my steps deliberate. She looked up, her face a ruin. Why? She whispered. I didn't answer. My revenge was complete, its cruelty a mirror of her betrayal. I walked out, leaving her to the echoes of her own voice, the canvas of our marriage nothing but dust. The days after the event were a void, the warehouse's echoes replaced by our home's silence. Claire didn't speak, her presence a ghost in our Victorian house. She'd packed her study, her art books and Polaroids gone, as if erasing herself could undo the past. I let her stay, not out of mercy but because her suffering was the final stroke of my revenge. She'd lost her career, her reputation, her lover. Julian had vanished, his studio abandoned, his name toxic. Mara's article was a wildfire, front page in the city's paper, shared across platforms. Curator's betrayal unveiled an art scandal. It screamed, detailing Claire's affair, the gallery's collapse, the warehouse event. Comments online were merciless. dissecting her life, her choices. Claire read them, her phone glowing late at night, her face hollow. I watched, my satisfaction cold, tempered by the emptiness of our shattered bond. Elisa's divorce was finalized, her settlement stripping Julian of his assets. She sent me an anonymous thank you note, likely suspecting my role. I burned it, wanting no ties to the wreckage. The gallery closed, its debts insurmountable, Vivian blaming Claire publicly. Friends who'd once fawned over Claire now shunned her. Their invitations dried up. She was a pariah, her world reduced to our creaking house, where I was both jailer and witness. I filed for divorce, my lawyer ensuring Claire would get nothing. The papers sat on the dining table, and signed, as if she hoped I'd relent. I didn't. I'd sold the community center project to a colleague, my focus lost, and took a leave from work. My life was a blueprint redrawn, its lines sharp with purpose but empty of joy. Claire's betrayal had carved me into something new, a man who could build ruin as easily as buildings. One evening, Claire spoke, her voice a whisper. I loved you, Daniel. I still do. I looked at her, her beauty faded, her eyes pleading. You loved yourself, I said, my tone flat. You loved the thrill. She flinched, retreating to her room. I poured whiskey, staring at the stained glass windows, their colors muted. My revenge was complete, but it hadn't filled the void. It had only deepened it, a chasm where our marriage once stood. I planned one final act, not for Claire but for me. I'd sell the house, leave Portland, start anew. She'd have to face the world alone, her name a cautionary tale. As I packed my sketches, I found the Polaroid, Claire and Julian, laughing. I tore it in half, the rip a final note in my symphony of vengeance. I left Portland a month later. The house sold, its creaking floors and stained glass windows someone else's story. Claire signed the divorce papers, her hand shaking, her eyes empty. She took a small apartment, her life a shadow of its former vibrance. I didn't care where she went. She was no longer my concern. My revenge, cruel and complete, had stripped her of everything. Career, love, dignity. And I felt no guilt, only a hollow triumph. I moved to Seattle, a city of mist and reinvention. I opened a small architecture firm, my designs leaner, sharper, reflecting the man I'd become. The community center project, sold off, was built by another, but I didn't regret it. My work was now personal, each structure a testament to control reclaimed. I didn't date, didn't seek love. Claire's betrayal had burned that desire to ash, leaving only my craft. News of Claire trickled in unbidden. She'd taken a job at a small museum, a clerical role, her name still whispered in art circles with disdain. Julian resurfaced in Europe, his work ignored, his life a footnote. Elise thrived, her law practice booming, her strength a contrast to their ruin. Mara won an award for her exposé, her career built on the scandal I'd fed her. The world moved on, but Claire remained trapped in the echoes of absence. Lila, the artist, contacted me, unaware of my role. She'd sold Fractured Muse to a collector, its notoriety driving its value. Echoes of Absence remained in storage, too raw for display. I told her to destroy it, wanting no relics of that night. She hesitated but agreed, sensing my resolve. I didn't tell her the truth. Some designs are too personal to share. I kept one memento, the recorder from Claire's purse, its final clip her sobbing after the warehouse, begging Julian to fix it. I played it once, then smashed it, the pieces scattered in Puget Sound. The act wasn't closure but a marker, a line between who I was and who I'd become. Claire's betrayal had been a fire, and I'd walked through it, emerging not whole but honed. My new home overlooked the water, its lines clean, its spaces uncluttered. I'd hung no art, no photos, only blueprints, my own, each a step toward a future I'd build alone. The canvas of my life was blank, but I held the brush. Claire's betrayal, Julian's arrogance, the art world's hypocrisy. They were shadows, fading in the light of my reclaimed purpose. I'd torn down their world, and in its ruins, I found my own foundation, cold but unyielding, a monument to a man who'd learned to carve justice from pain.